All right, guys. Hey, welcome back to our next lesson. I hope you guys are doing well. We're going to be continuing on our series here on urbanization and what life is like, for people moving to cities. And with that, we're going to be doing a kind of leap ahead in time from the feudal age to the first industrial revolution. So with that, go ahead and answer the warm-up questions right here. How have you and your family been? Just again, type it out on Pear Deck, click on your Pear, log in, all that good stuff. And then we'll get going on to our next lesson, or the rest of our lesson, rather. So here's our two objectives for today. Number one, explain what caused the Industrial Revolution and how it promoted urbanization. And then two, explore the effects that the urbanization of the Industrial Revolution had on people's lives. Now, this simulation that you can see, it's here on our agenda. That we're going to be doing as a part of this lesson. It's really, really cool. I'm really excited about it, but it is going to take us 2 lessons to do. So if you're watching this YouTube video and you start to get into this industrialization thing, the simulation of it, please recognize that this is going to take us a couple lessons. So please don't try to do it all at once. Okay. Let's go on and talk about, before we do our simulation, I want to give you the briefest of intros as to what is going to cause the Industrial Revolution to happen, okay? You'll see here, I'm going to provide another link to notes. Make sure you are doing those, especially for this, because the Industrial Revolution is really, really important. We'll talk about also some other kind of things that we need to get to along the way. So again, we're going to be looking at cause and effect here, primarily in this lesson. So write down these essential questions, and then we will continue on here with the rest of things. So first of all, with urbanization, something that we can't avoid talking about is the Industrial Revolution. Now, there's actually been 3 of them in all of human history. But the easy, straightforward for what the Industrial Revolution is it's a change in how people make things. Okay, and we're going to be talking about in this lesson the first Industrial Revolution. Okay, so if you want an easy, straight definition guide of what the Industrial Revolution is, it's the change of how we make things from human power, switching that to we make things with machine power. Okay, so it's the shift from human power to machine power. Now, the first Industrial Revolution is going to be powered by basically 3 things, and then it's going to have some other transportation stuff in there that's real fun. It's going to be powered by coal, steam, and water. Okay. Again, if you don't know, you heat up coal, and then water turns into steam, and then voila, you've got power. Also, though, it's going to feature a new form of transportation called railroads. We'll get to that later in the simulation. The effects of the Industrial Revolution are going to be profound in a whole bunch of ways that I can't even underscore in a 15-minute mini lesson. It's massive transformations in society. So let's talk about, as a case study, okay, in this, we're going to look at what caused the first Industrial Revolution in England. And the reason why is because, frankly, I guess I'm driving the bus here, but second, the reason is because England is the first country that goes through the Industrial Revolution. Okay, now why? Let's talk about that. The reason actually has to do with farming and something called the Agricultural Revolution. Now, England at this time is still, extremely rural. Most people, they lived in very rural settings. They might have been connected to a town. However, there is a very large divide between your basically your lord, or the person who was owning most of the property in that town, compared to the peasants who worked the land and things like that. There's going to be something that's going to happen in this setting called the Agricultural Revolution, and here's what happens. Okay, over time, the rich landowning classes in England start to begin to buy out the land from poorer English farmers. Okay, and what they start to do is, when they either buy this land, or in some cases just straight up take it, is they go through something called enclosure. Now, enclosure is not necessarily walls, although it in some cases physically was. What they would do is they would start to take these holdings that peasants had, and they would start to combine them to make farming more efficient. and I'll kind of show you a drawing here of how this actually worked. Let me pull up a window and just kind of, I'll make a little quick Google drawing so this will actually make sense. So how this would work is you would have, again, a rich landowner who owns this much land. And then he might have some neighboring peasants that own some smaller, plots of land out here, okay? And if you are a wealthy landowner, okay, and you've just bought this land, and there's one person, we'll just say like a dot represents a person here. Okay, I'm gonna change some of these colors so you can actually see it. Let's say there's 4 people who are working this much land. This is inherently less efficient, okay? And the reason why is because if all it takes is one wealthy landowner and, let's say 2 peasants of his, okay, too many. Let's say it just takes, for the wealthy landowner, it takes like 2 peasants, some laborers for him to work that land. You look at the exact same size of land over here and you're like, well, this doesn't make any sense. I can buy all this land, and then instead of paying for 4 people, again, same sizes here, I'm going to buy all this. Okay, it's all mine now. And I'm just going to have 2 people work it all, right? And again, the math works out there. The question for us then, what happens to these 2 people who get, kicked off the land and they lose everything? Okay, and so what you've just seen here is that is enclosure. Okay, the rich English landowners begin to buy out peasants' land and make larger fields for efficiency's sake. So what happens, as you saw there, the peasants become landless. And what do? Well, they've lost everything, so where are you going to go? Well, they start to go to some of these cities that are growing to find work. So what's the effect of all this? Well, if we look back at, and we think about the agricultural revolution, there's really 2 things that have happened. Number 1, there's more food available, okay? And the reason is because you've made more, equal, I guess, amounts of food, but now you have 2 extra laborers. And then, again, the other effect of this is that you can send those laborers, well, you don't send them, but they would go there. They would go to these cities to work. Okay, so that's the effect. Now, combine that with the fact that England has a lot of natural rivers and coastlines and things that help out with trade. We are prime here for industrialization to happen. We've got a surplus of labor. We've got extra labor. We've got more food for those people, relatively speaking. And then we've got trade primed and ready to happen. And that's going to be a recipe for basically the Industrial Revolution. So the changes from this, both positive and negative, there's an overwhelming amount of change. They do take place very, very slowly. It's not like this just happens all at once. So I've given you an acronym here, SQUAL. You don't need to memorize this, but thinking about the changes that the Industrial Revolution is going to promote is really, really important. Let's talk about, first, how work changes. Okay, most people, when they worked, they would, for example, you can see the first S is skill demand. You have this high skill work. So most people, like let's say, for example, you had to make your own furniture at home, and you make this like beautiful chair, handmade, takes you months, right? You go from that, which you might, occasionally like sell some extra chairs that you might, make and things like that. You go from that to you're now shoved in a factory, and what you do is you take table leg that has been ground up by a machine and you stick that onto the chair, throw it over to the side, next table leg, slap it onto the chair, next, and repeat that for a typical 12 to 14 hour workday. And all of a sudden, work has become incredibly repetitive and incredibly low skill. Like you're simply just a number that can be replaced at any given time. A way to think about this is like somebody making their own beautiful Air Jordan shoes, and then you have a factory that comes along and can churn them out way quicker. But then obviously the people working in that factory have kind of been turned into this number where they can be replaced at any given time, because what they're doing is like taking and putting a shoelace through, and that's it. Anybody can do that. The quality of life. Okay. The thing is that cities do, and these factories do give people opportunity, and they do obviously generate a lot of wealth. However, it's going to drive those social class increases even further between the rich and the poor. And this is because, again, if you're like one of these capitalists who has a lot of money and you start to make one of these new factories, you're obviously going to make more than your workers do. It's just how capitalism works, right? Urbanization, of course, we're going to have people moving from rural areas to cities. We've got extra people to spare, right? And those laborers are going to go to cities and they're going to find work there. The efficiency part, though, almighty efficiency, cannot be underscored here. Simply the fact that more things are made more quickly is the whole theme of industrialization. We should also talk about how work is located and kind of specify that. And that's what L is. Industrialization kind of goes through phases. The first phase is, again, things made in the household. That's not industrialization. Then there's this kind of like hybrid model, and I hate using that word right now, called outwork, where factories would do some of the work, but then they would like send like stuff that people like would, so like say you're really good at making the tongues of Air Jordans, is they would send that work to be done at home, and then you would again make the tongues of the Air Jordans at your house because you're really good for that, and then you would send that back to the factory. Eventually, what factory owners figure out, or business owners figure out, is that if you make this new thing called a factory where you take all the labor and concentrate it in one location, that's inherently more efficient. Now, today that's changed a lot because of the internet and things like that. But I would recommend that you kind of think about the fact that traditional, schooling is a modern day factory, right? We bring all of you students into one location so that we can make, teaching more efficient. We can ship you off in periods, right? We do quality checks. You have, student ID numbers, right? You very much today are living in an educational version of a factory, like it or not. But I do want to end with talking about the Industrial Revolution, about how life is. And life in the Industrial Revolution is hard, really hard. It's very isolating. It's very cramped because housing is teensy tiny, and it's also incredibly dirty. Modern day things like working sewage systems and clean water, clean food, they simply don't exist, or there's very few of them. Okay, like unemployment insurance doesn't exist. So like if you get hurt or injured on the job, sucks to be you is kind of the whole theme. The Industrial Revolution's really hard. Okay, and you will see that. It's going to also have some other effects that we'll get to. There's an exit ticket here. Please make sure you do that. Once you do that, then, okay, I'm going to explain then the simulation that we're going to be doing. Okay, so this simulation is called the Urban Game. Okay, there is going to be a link down here that you will need to go and click. Okay, don't do it now. Let me explain how you do this thing. And then we'll talk about what this YouTube video is. Okay, so here's how you play the game. Okay, this is a game that another teacher introduced to me, and then I since have made a YouTube video of it to kind of save my voice when I was teaching, and it will take you through the rest of it. But let's talk about what this thing is. So here's all that you'll need to play this game. Okay. You can do it online on like a Google Drawing, but I do recommend that you just grab like a random piece of paper and a pencil. It's probably the easiest way to do it. You're going to, and I'm actually going to change this here on this slide. I'm going to go back because I want to get rid of this word poster board, because you don't need to do it on a poster board. That would be like really extra. Just a regular piece of paper. Okay, so you're going to be taking a village in England through industrialization over, give or take, 105 years. And all you need is a piece of paper and a pencil. Each round demands, okay, and we'll talk about how the rounds work and things like that, that you're going to update your village with some things. Okay, and those are these icons that are up here above my head. Okay, so you can see we've got things like a house and church, normal school, private school, nice house, tree, city hall, tenements, that's kind of like an apartment building, museum or theater, hospitals, coal mines, iron bridges, factories, cemeteries, jails, a pub, which is like a bar, kind of, a commons area, talk about that, a street lamp, river, okay, canals, railroads, bridges for roads, and bridges for railroads. So here's how this thing works. On the YouTube video that is going to be linked down here in the corner, okay, and I will link it here before you go on to this first slide. You are going to be drawing things, and I've also, okay, with the video, and you'll see this, I will read to you some description about what life is like during this year of your village. You only really have 2 rules, okay? Number 1, draw, erase, or, add, shrink, modify, whatever I say, okay, on that particular slide. And then second, okay, don't change the sizes of the things that you add to your simulation. And this is really, really important. I recommend for all these icons up here that when you draw like a house, okay, or a church, for example, they should be about, kind of the best thing that I would tell you is like, look at like the length of like your fingernail on your thumb. That's about how wide that should be for a house or church. So if you're doing a school or, like a hospital or things like that, it's going to probably be about 2 of them put together. Okay. Same thing for like a store. City hall obviously is going to be a little bit taller. Tenement's going to be kind of half in between. You kind of get the idea of the sizes. It's really, really important that as you're doing this game, you don't shrink the sizes of those, okay? Because that leads me to the third goal of this game. You don't run out of room, okay? If you run out of room, unfortunately, that means that, either you got to go delete more stuff, which we'll talk about. You'll see in the game there are some opportunities to eventually get rid of things like trees and stuff like that. Or you may have to perhaps cheat a little bit and add another piece of paper. Other than that, that's really the only 2 rules. Do exactly as I told you to draw, add, modify, and don't shrink the sizes, and hopefully don't run out of room. Okay? So, with that, okay, here's what I need you to do. Right behind my face here, I have not put this link in, but I will. Okay, I'm actually going to go show you, I'm going to put the link in right now so you can actually watch me do it. I'm going to drop a YouTube link for the simulation. Okay, it is going to be, let me not select that. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna drop it right here, like in the corner. Okay, you can see it's right here, and it's just gonna say YouTube. Please, 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 please use the YouTube like read through with this. If you don't, then you have to go down here and you'll have to read each description as you're going on. That's kind of important. Second thing, okay, after round 10, I have got a stop because I want you to stop there for the end of day 1 of the simulation. I will put a timestamp in this YouTube video, and that will be for you to start on day 2. Actually, I'll kind of put like a link here, probably another YouTube thing. I'll just go ahead and drop it now. And what this link will do as I put it in here, kind of halfway, is that will, I think I'm gonna probably do it like an ed puzzle. That will stop you at the end of, or that will start you, excuse me, at the day 10. Okay, so I will have the videos set up so that hopefully you don't do too much on any one particular day. Other than that, okay, the only thing that I'm going to leave you with is that when you're doing day 2, okay, and you start to go through the rest of industrialization and you make it all the way to round 21, okay, at the very end, I'd like you to use Pear Deck to drag your icon onto the face that most matches your anxiety, having gone through industrialization. Then, okay, there is a reflection right there. It says, then complete this reflection. Please do that. Okay. If you would like to, just for fun, you can take a picture of your piece of paper and then send it to me on Schoology, and I just want to see how industrialization went for you. Okay. Other than that, again, please, 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 please use the YouTube video that is available on slide 11 to help you through the first day of the simulation, and then the YouTube video that is available on slide 23 to get you through day 2 of the simulation. And until then, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.